I have another device that's been long awaited. People have been very interested in. We've been hearing about BlackBerry and their imminent demise for some time. They said last year, wait till you see BlackBerry 10. It's awesome. It's a new operating system. And it's here. This is the first BlackBerry 10 BlackBerry phone. This is the Z, or if you're in Canada, Z10, available on every carrier in the U.S. except Sprint. So that's AT&T and T-Mobile. T-Mobile's only charging $100 for it. AT&T and Verizon $200 with a 2-year contract. I really have to say there are some nice things about this phone. First of all, the operating system, BlackBerry 10, is based on something called QNX, which is a real-time operating system that's quite snappy, and you feel that snappiness. This is a dual-core 1.4 gigahertz processor, 2 gigs of RAM on this. So there's some horsepower under the hood, but it flows very nicely. One thing you'll notice immediately, there are no buttons on this. Everything is about sliding in and out. BlackBerry calls this flow, and it is a very natural way to work. If you've played with the BlackBerry Playbook or a Palm Pre, the WebOS operating system might be familiar to you. You can have up to 8 apps running in the background. You see I've got 4, and as you add apps, they'll replace the over 8. They'll replace the previous one. So you get 8 icons here. You can slide over to see the icons for other apps. Apps is one, of course, the great lacks here. This is such a new operating system. There are somewhere between 50 and 100,000 apps, depending on who you ask, available for the BlackBerry Z10. But most of the apps you want, like Netflix, are not on here yet. It does come with Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Foursquare apps. Nicely implemented, too. I mean, they use the touch very well. This is the Foursquare app. You can see the scrolling is fast and responsive. When you're done with an app, you slide down from the top to minimize its icon. And let me do it right. Sorry, you slide down from the bottom to minimize the icon, and slide over to the right to see the other icons. That's one of the problems with this. Is a whole new way of operating a phone. It does take a little bit of getting used to. One of the other things I like a lot about the new BlackBerry is this hub, where everything is combined into one list. You've got your calendar if you scroll down on the hub. You've also got all your emails, your tweets, your messages from Facebook. So, BlackBerry's famous for being a email handling tool, and you really see that in the Z10. This hub interface is great for something like that. So, kind of an interesting new user interface, which I like. Beautiful screen. It's very high resolution, very clear. Somewhere in between the resolutions of phones like the Galaxy S3 and the iPhone. It's higher than that. I think it's almost 400 DPI, but lower than the DNA and the new S4 and the HTC One, which are all very high resolution screens. They're not pushing, specs, speeds, and feeds on this. They're really talking more about, kind of the UI and the interface, and I think that makes sense. People who buy BlackBerries probably don't buy it for how the screen resolution and things like that. It is a 4.2-inch 1280 by 768 display. I guess that's 356 pixels per inch. I just looked it up. Which is great. I mean, it's a beautiful-looking display. As you can see, not very customizable. Certainly, with Android, you'd have a lot of widgets and so forth. You can't do any customization to the screen. You could change the wallpaper. That's about it. Put your name and phone number on the front. You slide up to unlock to get in to it. It's got a replaceable battery, 1,800 milliamp hour battery. Not the best battery life, maybe 8 hours battery life. You can't put a micro SD card in here. The camera is 8 megapixels and gives you decent images. It has its own mapping software, BlackBerry mapping software, which you can also download Waze mapping software. A lot of the Google apps that you might be looking for on iOS or Android are missing on this, and I think apps are going to, in the long run, be a bit of a problem for this platform. You've got to convince developers to write for what is, at best, the number 4 platform after Android, iOS, and Windows Phone 8. If you're in the BlackBerry environment, though, you'll be very comfortable. You've got BBM. It supports BlackBerry Server. BlackBerry folks believe that they have a more secure platform, and while I'm no expert on that, it certainly is BlackBerry. Oh, I forgot one really kind of neat feature, and some people think this is probably the best thing about the BlackBerry Let me start a new text message on here. It has an interesting keyboard that you could see. I don't know if you can tell, but it's this. There's a little more vertical space between the keys, which makes it a little bit easier to type on. And it has a predictive thing. Let me just pick somebody's name to send a text to. That is quite cool. So as I start typing, let's hope it does it. Oh, I'm doing it. Let me do it right here. Enter a message. This. Now you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but there's little suggestions popping up on the keyboard. It learns from what you type and starts offering things like names and addresses. So as I started typing message, I got it wrong. So I can, but it has a little recommendation, very hard to see, but there's a little messages here. I can swipe this into the swipe this into the field. And I mean, I think that's kind of interesting. A lot of people say this is the best on-screen keyboard out there. It certainly is a little bit easier to use than iPhone and the smaller Android phones. But if you're a BlackBerry fanatic, you're not going to think it's a replacement for the hardware keyboards. You might want to wait for the Q10, which is the next BlackBerry 10 phone, which will have a traditional BlackBerry keyboard on this. So all in all, I'll give you the pros and cons. In terms of pros, the new operating system, BlackBerry 10, is, in fact, pretty nice. It's very usable. It's very smooth. This has a great screen. I didn't mention it, but the sound quality on all BlackBerry phones is famous. This has its excellent BlackBerry sound quality. I'll play a YouTube video. Maybe you can. Maybe you'll be able to tell how good it sounds. It's really excellent speakerphone quality. Picture is very good on the phone. I'm very happy with that. The cons are that it's a little bit late to the game, frankly. I mean, yeah, when the iPhone 5 came out, or iPhone came out in 2007, there were a lot of rough edges. This is kind of comparable to that, but it's not 2007 anymore. We're 6 years later, and you can get much more polished platforms from Android and from Apple. Let me pause this. By the way, I can pause it and swipe it up and put the thumbnail here, and these thumbnails will update while they're in the background. So that's kind of cool. It's not fully multitasking, but like if I continue to play the audio from this, it will continue to play as I swipe up. The video doesn't play, but it will jump to that part of the video when I resize this. But you can see it's still playing in the background. So it's kind of a middle ground in terms of multitasking. Same thing with music apps and so forth. Cons, it's a little late to the game. It's kind of average hardware with kind of average battery life. In fact, it looks a lot like an iPhone. Camera's only average. Everything about it is pretty middle of the road. I'm gonna give it an interesting recommendation. If you're a BlackBerry fan, if you're a BlackBerry user, if you use BBM, if you want to stay in the BlackBerry universe, I'd say absolutely this is a buy. The only negative would be the lack of a hardware keyboard, and if you're a big hardware keyboard fan, you're going to want that. If you're not a BlackBerry user, it's a don't buy. There's no reason to buy this if you're using iPhone, Android, or Windows Phone. It's really only for people already in the BlackBerry universe. I wouldn't migrate to BlackBerry from an existing platform. So that's both a buy and a don't buy. Yeah. Buy it if you love BlackBerry. Or at least try it. You might want to wait for the Q10 for the hardware keyboard. Did you play with this at all, Tony?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. Well, good. Here you go. And by the way, it comes with a lovely blingy case. I'll throw in for no extra charge. BlackBerry people are gonna be very happy with it. It shows that BlackBerry still has some life in the platform, and I think BlackBerry 10 is a really smart move on the point for BlackBerry to get into that much better operating system than the previous versions.